In the year 2000, the then 82-year-old Ingmar Bergman directed a film for Swedish television entitled The Image Makers, an adaptation of a stage play which he had produced for Stockholm's Royal Dramatic Theatre 2 years earlier. It was a fictionalised dramatisation of the production in 1920 of one of the greatest of all Swedish films, The Phantom Carriage, which had both starred and been directed by Victor Sjöström. Bergman frequently cited The Phantom Carriage as his favourite film and claimed to have seen it over 100 times, but The Image Makers was not just a tip of the hat to his cinematic idol, but so too an effusive tribute to the man who arguably played the greatest role in enabling him to enjoy his long and fruitful 60-year career in movie making. Alongside Moritz Stiller, Sjöström had been the preeminent director in the Swedish cinema during the silent era, and a move to Hollywood in the early 1920s had seen him work with major stars such as Lon Chaney in 1924's He Who Gets Slapped, Lillian Gish in 1928's The Wind, and compatriot Greta Garbo in the now lost film The Divine Woman. Returning to Sweden with the advent of the talkies, Sjöström by and large retired from directing from 1930 onwards, and while still performing as an actor, both on stage and screen, had also been installed as artistic supervisor at the country's largest production company, Svensk Film Industry. It would be there in 1943 that he would first encounter the young Ingmar Bergman, then a fledgling theatre producer, but who had also been taken on by SF as a script editor. Sjöström had been impressed by the young man's stage work, and when, in 1943, SF was looking for a project for director Alf Sjöberg, he recommended to them an original script written by Bergman entitled Torment. Released the following year, the resulting film would provide Bergman with his first screen credit. Torment would be enough of a success that Bergman would be allowed to direct his next script himself, but the film, Crisis, would prove to live up to its title. Executives at SF had been so concerned about the quality of the rushes that they had halted production after just 3 weeks, and it had only been on Sjöström's insistence about the younger man's talents that Bergman was eventually allowed to continue, albeit under the older man's supervision and guidance. Bergman's screen career survived this early setback, and over the following decade he would continue to make films for SF, even casting Sjöström himself in a small role in his 1950 melodrama To Joy. The 50s saw him score a series of international hits. First, Summer with Monica, whose frank depiction of sexuality had seen it repurposed as an exploitation film in the American market, comedy of sexual manners Smiles of a Summer Night, and most famously 1957's The Seventh Seal, the winner of the Special Jury Prize at Cannes, which cemented his place as one of European cinema's preeminent auteurs. But if, by 1957, Bergman's professional reputation was at an all-time high, his personal life was in disarray. His third marriage was long into the process of falling apart, and his relationship with his parents, in particular his father, prominent Lutheran minister Erik Bergman, remained one of estrangement. This frosty relationship with his father would come to be a recurring theme in his later films, in which patriarchs, in particular ones tied to the church, are presented as being cold, callous, and even sadistic figures. Yet 1957's Wild Strawberries, which would also present an emotionally distant father figure, found Bergman in a more conciliatory mood. He said that the idea for the film had come to him whilst on a car journey past Uppsala, the city in which he had grown up. Thinking about his grandmother's house, he pondered, what if in old age one were able to step back into the world of one's own childhood? From here came the film's title, Smultronstället, literally meaning the wild strawberry patch, but figuratively referring to an idyllic time or place in life to which one yearns to return to or recapture. The name of the film's protagonist, Isak Borg, suggests in Swedish the words ice fortress, and his emotional detachment from many of those around him shares a commonality with other patriarchs in the director's work. Yet it is no coincidence that he shares his initials with the director himself. As much as Borg represents his father, so too does the film stand as a mea culpa for his own failings in his relationships. Bergman had written the role of Isak Borg specifically for Sjöström, and had said that he would not have gone ahead with production had the veteran actor turned the part down. Reflecting later in life, Bergman observed of his performance in the film, "He occupied my soul and made it all his own. Wild Strawberries was no longer my film, it was Victor Sjöström's." Bergman had borrowed imagery from Sjöström's The Phantom Carriage for The Seventh Seal, in particular its presentation of the personification of death, and would do so again in Wild Strawberries, most explicitly in the vision of the horse-drawn carriage in the nightmarish dream sequence near the film's beginning. But the debt to the earlier film also runs deeper, both in terms of its intricate flashback structure and its themes of aging, emotional isolation, and the possibility of redemption. It is perhaps this reciprocal creative relationship between director and star which makes Wild Strawberries seem like a singularity, even within Bergman's diverse body of work. And while it was evidently a very personal statement about his life, it contradictorily also feels like his most universal film, a bittersweet meditation on regret and the ephemeral nature of happiness, but so too a tender exhortation to find absolution and serenity.